Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. This one is solving Game Week 6 dilemmas. We're going to look at some players. Should you keep them? Should you sell them? Should you buy them? Like Trent on screen. Before we get into that though, make sure you do subscribe. It helps a lot. And I just wanted to mention that Fantasy Football Hub, their 50% off deal ends at the end of this week. So if you want to get 50% off on signing up for Fantasy Football Hub, go to the link in the description of this video. You can get all sorts on there. You can get your team rated by the AI. You can get your recommended transfers. You can get team reveals from some of the best players. So if you want 50% off, then have a look in the description of this video and use that link. But let's get into it. Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's been brilliant this season. He has just come off an 11-point haul against Bournemouth. He got an assist and a clean sheet, a couple of bonus points. He has been brilliant. Should you be buying him? A lot of people are already buying him. For me, I don't think he is a buy right now. I think if you've already got him, then he probably is a keep. There is a world where he is potentially a sell. I'm thinking about it myself this week, to be honest. I think the Arsenal fixtures are much better than the Liverpool fixtures. If you're on wildcard, then I probably wouldn't have Trent Alexander-Arnold. I posted a wildcard draft video already for Game Week 6, so check that out if you haven't already. I don't have Trent Alexander-Arnold in that draft. The reason is, I want Gabriel. Gabriel is a lock in that draft, and to be honest, in anyone's team from Game Week 6 onwards for me, for the next few. And I would rather spend the money in the attacking areas, to be honest, I think, at the moment anyway. And it's a fixtures play, to be honest. So the next few are good, don't get me wrong. Wolves away is good. Crystal Palace away is good. Both good fixtures. Neither team has been defensively great. And neither team has been that good going forward either. So it wouldn't surprise me if Trent gets a couple of clean sheets, maybe even an attacking return. I'm not saying that you should sell him immediately if you don't own him, of course, because those two fixtures are great. But it's the fixtures afterwards. They've got then Chelsea at home, Arsenal away, Brighton at home. I don't think any of those are particularly good. And there's a couple of nice fixtures after Game Week 10, but then they also then run into a tough run as well where they play City quite soon after that. I think that you can basically just hop off Trent at the moment to go for City defenders who look good from Game Week 7, so the likes of Gvardiol or Rico Lewis. And you can even double up on the Arsenal defence because their fixtures are just brilliant for the next few. They've got Southampton at home and Leicester at home in the next two. So they're absolutely brilliant. I just think that basically there's slightly better fixtures around. That doesn't mean that I don't think that Trent is a good pick. I think Trent is the best defender in the game by some distance. This season he's been brilliant. I just probably wouldn't be buying him this week or in the next few weeks. And if I were on wildcard, I probably wouldn't have him. Okay, the next player we're going to look at is Luis Diaz. Obviously, plays for Liverpool as well. And for me, it's a similar situation, but for different reasons. Now, I think the fixtures are better for Liverpool attackers than they are for Liverpool defenders. They're still not great, but the next couple are good, don't get me wrong. And for me, I still wouldn't be buying Diaz right now. If I were on wildcard, again, I wouldn't have Diaz. He isn't in the wildcard draft that I put together for yesterday's video. So, yeah, I wouldn't be buying Diaz. Now, my reasoning for that isn't because I don't think he's good. I think he's absolutely brilliant. He's had incredible start to the season. He's been absolutely lethal in front of goal. Don't get me wrong. But I really do think we're going to see quite a lot of rotation from these Liverpool attackers this season. Arne Slot has already shown that he is happy to rotate them. Besides maybe Salah. Salah is the one that is the most locked, I'd say. But we've seen Diaz and Jota come off around 60, 70 minutes most weeks. Jota got benched this week for Darwin. I do think that we're going to see Gakpo start a couple of games on the left wing instead of Diaz at points. Now, I don't think this is going to happen in game week 6. I think that Gakpo probably gets the midweek game, and then it's a case that Diaz probably plays against Wolves. And I do think Diaz will play most of the time. So I'm not saying that it will be 50-50 or anything like that. But I think that Gakpo will play a few games, and that would be enough to put me off and go for someone else. We've got plenty of good midfield options. So I probably wouldn't be buying Diaz at the moment. But yeah, that's not because I don't think he's good. I'm just not sure that he's going to get the minutes needed that I'd want over another player. Okay, now this is one that it feels like we talk about every week, but it is Eze of Crystal Palace. Should we be keeping him or should we be selling him? A lot of managers are obviously frustrated that he hasn't been delivering with attacking returns and points, and that is completely understandable. He had 2 brilliant chances against Man United in game week 5 that he should have done better with, but I would be more worried if he's not getting chances or creating chances than I would be if he were missing chances, if that makes sense. Which he is getting the chances at the moment, so he won't just miss chances forever, or he won't be creating chances and the other players will miss them forever. That won't happen. That never happens with footballers that are creating chances or getting chances. I think that you should hold Eze. There is a world where I would sell him if he's your only route to someone like Mbomo. I think Mbomo is better than Eze at the moment, mainly because he's definitely got penalties and the fixtures are better for Brentford as well. So if he's your only route to Mbomo, then fair enough, yeah, go for it. Also, if he's your only route to Saka, then he is by far the better player, better asset. So yeah, they're the only 2 players that I would sell Eze for. I wouldn't sell Eze for anyone else. Also, because look at the fixtures. Everton away is a fantastic fixture. Yes, Branthwaite might be back, but I don't think that'll just make them an unbelievable defence overnight. It will make them considerably better, I agree, but it won't make them unbelievable overnight. Liverpool at home is a bad fixture, don't get me wrong. That's not one that's great. But then the 3 after that aren't the worst, I don't think. Forest have been quite good defensively, but we saw Brighton. You can get out of this defence. Tottenham just isn't a good defence, albeit it was quite good in game week 5. And Wolves has been quite a terrible defence this season. So if you can deal with that Liverpool game, I think that you keep Eze this week. Especially as we know that Nketiah is probably going to take the next penalty, but we did see Nketiah come off at half-time in game week 5, meaning that for that whole second half, Eze was probably going to be on penalties if they won one. So if we continue to see Nketiah not play to 90 minutes, there's more chance that Eze takes a penalty if they get one. Now, this is another player that it feels like we talk about him every single week. Alexander Isak, should we be keeping him? Should we be selling him? Up to this point, I've been preaching the keep him. He's got a good fixture, it'll be all fine. This week he hasn't got a good fixture, so I can't bang that drum. Also, Newcastle are just terrible, aren't they? I mean, I've watched them 3 times this season out of 5 games, maybe even 4 actually. Every single time they've been horrendously bad. The other team has absolutely battered them. Going forward, they've had nothing. Gordon, so I actually just mentioned Gordon as well. If you've got Gordon, definitely sell him. He was terrible in the first half at the weekend. Every time he got the ball, he pretty much gave it away. He looks like he can't be bothered as well. He's just walking around, not putting in a ton of effort. Yeah, he's been awful. I don't think Isak has actually played awful, to be honest. Every time he's had a chance, he's done something with it. He could have scored this weekend if Fabian Schär could have just played the ball across to him for a tap-in, he would have had a goal. But that was pretty much all Isak had the whole game. They're not creating chances for him. Newcastle have been really bad. I don't think it's his fault, but the team as a whole is just terrible. So this fixture is obviously one of the worst ones as well, Man City at home. I do think that Isak is a sell now. I have made an early transfer myself on my team. I have sold Isak. So let's look at some of the replacements that we can get in for him. Okay, now the first one we're going to look at is Kai Havertz. Now, I mentioned how Arsenal have some fantastic fixtures over the next few. You can see them on screen. Leicester at home, Southampton at home. 2 pretty perfect fixtures. Bournemouth away is not so bad either. Bournemouth have been good this season, but mainly going forward. I'm not sure their defence has been anything to write home about. But these next 2, Leicester at home, Southampton at home, are fantastic. Now, if you're on wildcard, I do prefer going for double Arsenal defence with Saka rather than, say, Gabriel, Saka, Havertz. But if you're like myself and you're not wildcarding this week and you have Alexander Isak, then it is a much easier route to go to Havertz. It will take me an extra transfer to get in Saliba rather than just moving Isak to Havertz. So it's one that, I've thought about a lot. Isak to Havertz could be a fantastic move given these next 2. Now, we've seen that with Odegaard out, Havertz is probably going to be playing in a slightly deeper role in central midfield. But what we have seen from the last couple of games is that even when that does happen, so Trossard played up front against Man City, albeit Trossard is now suspended for that Leicester game, so he can't play up front. But even when it is Trossard playing up front and Havertz in the 8 or 10, whatever you want to call it, Havertz is almost just as high as Trossard or whoever's up there. For this Leicester game, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Gabriel Jesus playing up front with Havertz in that centre mid role. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But Havertz will still play very, very high. It is almost at times like a kind of 2 up top scenario where, especially when the other team have got the ball, Havertz presses up with the striker. And even when Arsenal have got the ball, I expect him to join the striker up front. So I don't think that Odegaard out makes him that much worse positional-wise. Obviously, Odegaard's creativity is useful for Havertz, but I think that Havertz is a great option. So if you need a way to get that third Arsenal player and you can't get to a second defender, then I think Havertz is great. Okay, the second option to replace Isak with, and a slightly cheaper version, is Dominic Solanke. We saw him get his first goal for Spurs at the weekend. We know that he is fully fit now, so there's no issues with that. And there was never an issue that he wasn't going to play because Ange has said quite publicly that he hasn't played badly, and he hasn't, to be fair. There was no chance he was going to get benched. The thing I like about Solanke is the fixtures, and there is a small chance that he's on penalties. Granted, I think it is quite small. I do think Son will probably take a penalty if Spurs get one, although Spurs haven't had a penalty for a while, to be honest. But I do think Son will probably take it. We have seen Son give away penalties previously. I think for South Korea he gave one to Hwang once, but not that that's particularly relevant in this case. I think if Solanke hadn't scored yet, then it would be more likely that he'd be given a pen by Son just to get him off the mark as such. But now that Solanke's got a goal, I do think it's unlikely. I do think that Son will probably take the next penalty, but there is a chance it's Solanke. The main reason I like him is how nailed he is. He plays a lot of minutes every single game, and the fixtures are good. The Man United defence, which is the fixture in Game Week 6, I don't think the Man United defence is great. Brighton isn't a bad defence, and it's Brighton away. It's not a bad defence, but we saw Forest get through them quite easily. West Ham defence is quite terrible right now, as we saw against Chelsea. Palace defence isn't great. Villa defence isn't great. So the next 5 fixtures are pretty good. So if you want someone around a similar price to Isak, then Dominic Solanke could be a good option. Okay, now the third option is a player that we looked at last week when we were talking about replacements for Yohan Wissa, and it's Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Now, the fixture did look good for him last week against Leicester. He didn't get a return, but the fixtures are still brilliant. Look on screen here, it says he's got Crystal Palace, Newcastle, Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton. They're all green apart from the Newcastle one, which to be honest should be green because they're terrible right now. Up until game week 14, 15, he has fantastic fixtures. They don't play any big team like Liverpool, City, Arsenal or Chelsea until game week 15, when they play all 4 of them within 4 weeks. But you can play Dominic Calvert-Lewin for the next 9-10 weeks, to be honest, and he will get good minutes. He seems to be just fully fit now, so he will get subbed off, but it doesn't seem to be happening until late in the game, which is useful. Also, he should be on penalties. Pretty sure he is on penalties. So he just has all the routes to goal. He's got Dwight McNeil behind him, whose creativity this season and just in his general career is fantastic. DCL will get chances created by McNeil. So that's not a big issue. And Braithwaite's coming back, so the defence will be more solid. Not that really impacts Calvert-Lewin too much, but in general, the team should get a bit of a boost. So if you want to save some money and go down from Isak to generate some funds, then Dominic Calvert-Lewin could be the best option. Okay, the last option is another one that we mentioned last week when we were talking about Johan Wissa replacements, and it is Eddie Nketiah. He's a similar price to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but he plays for Crystal Palace, obviously. Now, since he's come in, we've heard great things from Glasner about him. He said they wouldn't have spent all that money to not play him, so he will be getting minutes. We've seen in the 2 games that he's played so far, he's got minutes. Mateta was the one to come off, as we mentioned earlier, at half-time in game week 5, whereas Eddie Nketiah stayed on. In game week 4, he had the joint most shots in the whole league with Haaland and Watkins, so we know that he's just going to shoot on sight, which is perfect for our FPL teams. He is not on penalties like a couple of the other players that we've looked at, but he still should get enough chances in this Palace team with the likes of Eze, with the likes of the wing-backs, Mitchell and Munoz. He will get chances created for him. When we talked about Eze, we did mention the fixtures. They're okay. If you can get through that Liverpool fixture, if you've got, say, an 8th attacker that you can play in game week 7 and you can bench Nketiah, then it's perfect because that Everton fixture's good and the 3 after that are pretty good as well. So if you're looking for a slightly more differential option, then Eddie Nketiah could be your guy. Now, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, make sure you do hit the like button. Make sure you do subscribe. If you want to get 50% off Fantasy Football Hub, make sure you use the link in the description. The offer does run out the end of this week, I believe. So make sure you do that. But for now, this is all, and I'll see you in the next one.